With all eyes set on the 2026 midterms, believe it or not, Election Day is actually right around the corner for some issues that mean quite a lot close to home. Here to tell us more about local elections on November 4th and even more happening in West Bloomfield Township is their Township Clerk, Debbie Binder. Clerk Binder, thank you as always for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Good morning, Tyler. Good to see you today.
Yeah, good to see you as well as we're approaching Election Day in Greater West Bloomfield. Like many of the pop-up elections between the midterms and certainly in between presidential elections, not expected to be the most popular of votes out there for this time of the year, but it's really important that people understand that there are elections in place and that not everybody in West Bloomfield Township is actually eligible to vote in those elections. Clarify why that is the case for us.
Okay, so I know I always say the same thing, that we have 7 school districts within West Bloomfield Township jurisdiction, and 3 of our school districts have an election right now, as well as the people who live in the proposed village of Zax, who have they will be electing their proposed charter commission. So those are the only people who have a precinct. So I actually had someone say to me last night that their son got a ballot and they didn't. And they were in the Walled Lake School District, who does not have an election, and the other was in the West Bloomfield School District, who does. So only voters in West Bloomfield who reside in the West Bloomfield School District, the Bloomfield Hill School District, and the Pontiac School District will have an election, as well as the people who are in the proposed village, which is currently Zax. But all of those do reside in the West Bloomfield School District, so they will have an election. But voters who reside in any of our other school districts, Walled Lake, which is a large one, Farmington, Birmingham, or Waterford, will not have an election at this point. So when they see signs on Tuesday and they worry that they missed something, don't worry, you don't have an election. I will say we do anticipate perhaps a little bit larger turnout, because one big change since in previous years is that permanent ballot. So there are a lot of people, almost half of our voters have signed up to be on the permanent ballot list, meaning they will get a ballot in the mail for every election they're eligible to vote in, including this one. So everyone who meets those conditions will get a ballot that signed up. So I do think we will see perhaps an increase in voter turnout. And an election of this size typically is one that everyone who participates, or not, I shouldn't say everyone, that's probably too strong of a word, but the majority, I think it's been up to 91%, will participate through absentee voting.
And between redistricting and then, of course, the recent changes that have been made to precincts in West Bloomfield, reducing the overall number, how might that, particularly the changing of the precincts, potentially have an impact on this set of elections?
I think we won't see a big impact on this set of elections, other than voters who may not have received, they should have received their voter ID card, or just maybe aren't aware and go to their previous polling locations. We did try to keep most of them the same. And what we did was consolidate precincts. The law had changed that allowed the precinct sizes to go from a maximum of 2,999 registered voters up to 4,999 registered voters. Reason for that is we have seen a tremendous shift in voter habits as we've had more opportunities and options to vote, like early voting and absentee voting, and no reason absentee voting. You've seen more voters switch their habit toward those, and fewer voters are actually going to their precincts on election day. We did wait. The law came into effect in 22. We didn't implement the changes until after we saw what the 24 election turnout was and had the metrics from that to look at. But that confirmed when we saw, and literally these numbers are as round as they sound, 50% of our voters voted by absentee, 20% voted in early voting, and 30% voted in the precinct. So in looking at the number of voters that are coming into the precinct on election day, laws were changed in 22 to allow those precinct sizes to be made up of more voters and consolidate precincts, which is what we did. So you will see this election, so this will be the first election that we have gone from 26 precincts down to 20 precincts. And we did, almost everyone will have a new precinct number. Most will stay in their same polling location. So even if they don't know that they have a new precinct number, they should end up at their normal polling location. But that is not the case for everybody. So I do see that habit change will could take one election of going to the wrong location. But again, I go back to that we've seen up to 80, 90% that have voted absentee for a small election like this. So I think that this will be consistent, and we have done, a good job of getting the word out that people have a new, polling location, and everybody in the township did receive a new voter identification card.
Tuesday, November 4th is Election Day in Greater West Bloomfield. Only in select cases, as was mentioned earlier on, a couple of the school districts in our local area have some ballot proposals, and then those in the Zox neighborhood in West Bloomfield will be voting on their charter commission as they attempt to become a village within West Bloomfield Township. More info on that and the election can be found on wbtownship.org, or of course you can follow the township on their Facebook and Instagram pages, both of those at the handle at West Bloomfield, at WB Township on Facebook and on Instagram at WB Township for more information. Clerk Binder, with all these changes recently and with the specifics of this particular election, how has your office been working to ensure transparency and proper communication to the community so that people know if they are potentially eligible to vote in this election, and that those key changes that maybe affect them this election, maybe affect them the next one, are communicated properly and they understand where they're supposed to be and what they may need to do for future elections?
Well, I go back again, Tyler, to the statute lays out very clearly what the obligation of the clerk's office are, and those ensure and guarantee transparency. So every single voter in West Bloomfield with the consolidated precincts will have received a new voter identification card. And then we also send out applications to those who are on the permanent application list, not on the permanent ballot list, that allows them to check a box to literally request to be on the permanent ballot list. We do need to have a signature to put somebody on the permanent ballot list. So that application becomes one of the vehicles with which they can request to be on it. And we have gone up, I would say, since I came in originally from a permanent application list, I believe it was about 6,000. We're up to 23,000 that are now participating on the permanent ballot list. So we have seen that word getting out very well. I do think, though, that there will be, every election we do have some confusion about it. I drove by and I saw signs, but I didn't know I was voting. So we do anticipate that, and my staff is beyond friendly, and when we get those phone calls, they field them nicely. But everybody has been notified, and everybody has had the opportunity to join that permanent ballot list probably for the last 2-3 years. They have received that as part of their application. So we do our best when they come to the counter. We also make them aware of their options, and I do think that it does take one cycle sometimes for voters to get into the new groove, so to speak. But I do think that we do a good job getting the word out there. And in a large election, we usually do take out an ad in the paper as well, just to remind people of changes. But I would say that if there's any question, there's a couple ways to check. You can call the clerk's office at 248-451-4848. Again, it's 248-451-4848. Or you can go to the Michigan Voter Information Center through the Secretary of State, which is either easiest way is michigan.gov/vote. michigan.gov/vote, and voters can check all of their information through basically through the database. But what is important, as I mentioned, the Voter Information Center, today is the last day to register by mail or online. So if somebody does want to register for this election, and they want to do it without coming to the clerk's office, they want to be online or by mail. Today is the last day. After today, the only way to register will be in person at the clerk's office with residency verification. So they can still register that way up through 8 p.m. on Election Day. You would need to come, though, after today to the clerk's office in person with residency verification. People who wish to obtain an absentee ballot can do so up to 4 p.m. the Monday night before the election. People who register on the day of the election can also get an absentee ballot on Election Day. They would have a choice if they want to vote by absentee ballot or they want to go to their precinct. Typically, when they register on that same day, they are excited to go to the precinct and have that experience voting. But we do, as it gets later in the day, we will kind of suggest if they can't make it to their precinct in time, that they may want to choose to vote absentee ballot. But everybody who is not a same-day registrant does have to request their absentee ballot by 4 p.m. the Monday before the election. And the 4 p.m. is a hard stop. It's a statutory stop. So even though the township's open till 4:30, we can't hand out a ballot after 4 p.m. statutorily.
And just for clarification, if you are watching this segment after Monday, October 20th, that's when this has been live on the Splash proper. After Monday, October 20th, if you're seeing this segment, whether it's online or on one of our live shows being replayed and repurposed, you have to register now at that point at the clerk's office to vote in this election with residency verification at the clerk's office by 8 p.m. on election day, or as Clerk Binder said, for an absentee ballot by 4 p.m. on Monday, November 3rd. That is a hard deadline, Monday, November 3rd, 4 p.m. for absentee ballots. That being said, early voting still an option for those that are registered. Debbie, what do voters need to know about early voting for this election in Greater West Bloomfield?
Absolutely, it's a great point. And so early voting will be available beginning, I have it on Saturday, the second Saturday before the election. So it is October 25th through November 2nd. It is at the West Bloomfield Library, the main library, and begins on Saturday. It goes Saturday, Sunday, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday. It is from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. daily, except on Thursday when it's from noon to 8. And for those who may not be aware, you can actually bring your absentee ballot with you to early voting and put it through the tabulator yourself. So those who want to kind of mix the experience of having their permanent absentee ballot but still feeding it through the tabulator themselves, you may do that by either taking your ballot with you to the early voting center or to your precinct on election day. So, lots of opportunities to cast that ballot. So keep that in mind. Early voting is a nice alternative. I know we may have some people that, in November of 24, the lines were very long for early voting the entire time. We do know that. It was, countywide. And I do anticipate in a large presidential election, we will continue to see that the lines on early voting are long. But I can assure you for this election, the lines won't be long. And my guess is for most of the elections in between the presidential elections, the lines won't be long like that. So, I still would, urge people to consider early voting as a great option. It really meets a need for people. As everything has gotten different, people are traveling more for work. They may work a swing shift. Whatever the reason is, if they have a vacation planned, or, we had absentee voting, but now early voting really gives them an option for somebody who wants to cast their ballot in person to go to their polling location and cast their ballot and still accommodate their work schedule or their vacation schedule. So it's very convenient. And I know in a small election like this, the staff that's working it will be very happy to see people who come in because I think they get a little bored. So I would urge people that this might be a good election to try it, and try bringing your absentee ballot with you. You can use that and put and feed it through the tabulator. They will convert it to an election day ballot when you go into the early voting center, but it's easy. You can bring it in voted. They're going to record that, and you get to put it through the tabulator yourself. So it's a great opportunity.
And plenty of opportunities to do that. It's not just the weekends before the election leading up to it. It's also each and every day during the week during that also. CivicCenterTV.com will have more information on that that will direct you to the clerk's office's website. And you can also follow the township for more information on elections and more all across social media, Facebook and Instagram at WB Township. Clerk Binder, another big story in the Greater West Bloomfield area right now. Fire Station number 1 renovation is underway there. A very big project and a big moment for West Bloomfield Township as it's yet another big investment into public safety, this time on the fire department side. How excited are you and the other leaders at Town Hall for this project to get underway and bring that fire station really in one of the more central parts of our community in West Bloomfield Township and in the greater area proper into the 21st century, into 2025 with a practically brand new state-of-the-art facility?
So I am excited to see it. Obviously, it is a flagship on Orchard Lake Road, but it's a big investment. So just updating a flagship is certainly not reason enough to make that kind of investment in the community. The reality of public safety is a reason to invest, as well as ensuring the safety of our firefighters. And I don't know if anyone, who's had an opportunity to see the fire station, but it really hasn't been updated since it was built. The kitchen, it definitely has a Brady Bunch look, but it also has a much older function. And in terms of everything we know and the demands on safety for our firefighters and protecting them and changing workforces, there have been many reasons that have come into play to look at updating the function of the fire station as well as the form of it. So I think we took a comprehensive look at what kind of changes need to be made. And obviously the process is still underway in looking at the design component, but there has been some we're well into it for sure. But it's looking at what meets the needs. Again, this one has met the needs for over 50 years, and we're looking at how are we going to meet the needs for the next 50 years. And I think when you talk infrastructure at any point, infrastructure right now is expensive, but infrastructure around 50 years always needs an investment. And when we look at what we really have gotten a lot of time out of the structure that exists, and we're looking at how to make sure we get that kind of time out of the next, I won't say next structure because it's a remodel more than it's not getting torn down, but we are looking at changes that need to be made to make it go for the next 50 years as well. But I think that when I take a tour of Station 1 and see, it's very clear what needs to be updated and why it needs to be updated to ensure that we have a safe environment for our firefighters and to ensure that they are able to have the equipment and materials that they need to ensure the safety of our community. And I know that our community has spoken very loudly with their millage support that public safety is important to the community, and having our own public safety is important to the community. So that does take an investment, and fortunately we're able to collectively come together and support that kind of investment. So as much as it's a big investment for the community, I think it's a worthwhile investment that supports every single resident in the community, as well as making sure that we have a safe environment for our firefighters. So I think it's an exciting investment. It's an important investment, but I also think that it is a flagship visual for Orchard Lake Road. So it will be nice. And I know in looking at the design, they incorporated a little park-like walkthrough area that will provide, people that it is a common walking space because it does connect the Kroger, let's say, that mall down to the high school. So people do walk through, and it will have a little bench and a sidewalk in front, which will maximize just the use of the area by the public, but we will also have a public safety asset that will be tremendous for the community for many years to come.
Well, it's going to be a great facility there, and there's plenty of detail already out in the public on this as well. If you want to learn more about Fire Station number 1, go ahead and watch back some of the recent West Bloomfield Township Board meetings, as well as the West Bloomfield Township Planning Commission meeting from October 14th. Those available on demand on civiccentertv.com, or our recent story about the renovations, where you'll hear a little bit from Captain Jeff Latkowski and a little bit about those special designs and community spaces from West Bloomfield Fire Chief Greg Flynn. In the meantime, November 4th is Election Day in Greater West Bloomfield. Clerk Binder, thank you for giving us more information.
Okay, thank you very much, Tyler. Much appreciated.